who've been arrested. And Canada is very socialist, and they're also very pro-abortion. And so when a woman is taken as a prisoner and is seen as a criminal, and she's pregnant, generally speaking, what the government wants to do is get her into an abortion facility and then bring her back. Because they don't want to deal with a pregnant woman, they don't want to deal with the healthcare costs, just get her through with an abortion. And Mary met one of these pregnant girls named Stephanie, and she was there, and she was, I think, about 10, 12 weeks along, and Mary was talking with her, and this young lady was definitely thinking about abortion. And after Mary had talked with her for a couple of weeks, she left. Mary didn't hear from her again. She just continued to pray. But a few months later, the guard said, "Mary, you have a special visitor." And she's like, "Okay." So she went to visitation, and she goes to, and they have this room again where you have to go, and it's like all metal. You have to go through a metal detector, through this little hallway. The guards are right there. And then you go, and there's like 6 little like cubicles, all of them with cement walls. And there's like, the thick glass and a metal table, and you can sit down, and on the other side, you have to pick up the phone, and there's the prisoner. And so Mary goes and sits down and picks up the phone, and she's waiting to see who will come. And around the corner comes Stephanie, and there in her arms, the little baby. And she said, "Mary, I just want to tell you that when I met you here at Vanier Women's Detention Center, the thought of having a child was nowhere on my radar. It wasn't on my mind. And now that I have little Alexander, there's nothing else that I can think of except for him and loving him. He's changed my life. He's brought me joy. And I had to come back here. I never wanted to come to this place again, but I had to show you my son, and thank you." And Mary was so surprised and overjoyed that this mother chose life. And more women are choosing life. Right now, support in our country for the Roe versus Wade decision is at its lowest point since 1973. Now more people polled in the U.S. say that they're pro-life. Huge numbers in the majority, and it's moving in the right direction. But there's still people who are scared, afraid with the pregnancy, and the abortion industry exploits them. So we have to pray for them, and we have to show them that there is help available. I'd like to ask you to pray for Mary. She's challenging the Constitution. And in Canada, it's called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And it says that all persons are entitled to protect for their personal integrity, their well-being. And Mary says, well, I am protecting a person. I'm protecting the unborn person. And the law, kind of like in the United States, sometimes it treats the unborn child as a person, sometimes it doesn't. And Mary said that she was there to protect another person, another human being. And what's sad about our own country, the Dred Scott decision and the original U.S. Constitution, it treated human persons from African descent who were slaves, they treated them as 3/5 of a person, not a full person. They said they were human beings and you weren't to be allowed to kill them, but they weren't human persons, so they could be owned, they could be whipped, they could be mistreated. We know that many people were killed and were lynched. Terrible time in our nation's history. But it's happening now in a different way. It's not a type of discrimination based on ethnicity or race, but based on human development and on age. And Mary is standing up and saying that these are real people, regardless of the fact that they're smaller than us and younger than us. So please pray for her. The judge had till the end of February to make a decision as to whether or not she had standing and she could proceed with the constitutional challenge. But the judge asked Mary's attorney, he said, well, what is this really about? He said, well, this is about saying that Mary was there to protect a human being, and that legally she had a right. And so what the judge said at the end of February is, he said, I'm essentially not an expert when it comes to this matter. Who are your expert witnesses? And Mary's attorney said, well, we have two. We have a woman who's an obstetrician, and she's the director of obstetrics at University College in Toronto, and she delivers babies, she treats mothers and children, and she helps to schedule surgery for the children in the womb. There's the child in the womb, there can be successful surgeries to cure things like spinal bifida. And so she's going to talk about the unborn child as a patient. So if the unborn child's a patient, of course it's a person. And then the second will be a researcher, an embryologist, a PhD, and this scientist, he is going to talk about the beginning of human life. And that as soon as life begins, you have a human being. And because there's a human being there, we have to say there's a human person. And so what the judge has said is that these two expert witnesses now can testify in the Canadian court about the humanity of the child. And that's going to happen on May 13th and May 14th in the Toronto Federal Court. So please keep that in your prayers, and that's happening. So you never know when sometimes God might use a small act of love to do something which could impact so many others. And at this point, it's my privilege to talk about some other witnesses who are here in your community. Today, Ellen and I were out, we went to Mass, ran some errands, but we wanted to stop by to remember the poorest of the poor. And we went to the big mega abortion center that's in Minneapolis, the Planned Parenthood that's there. And while we were there, we saw people who were there praying, people who go there to offer information, to be a witness to Christ's love and truth, people who go out every day and to try to show that there's hope. And one of these individuals has joined us here tonight. He's in the back. His name is Brother Maximilian Conley, Brother Max. And he's going to share with you a little bit about his witness. And let's give Brother Max a welcome. Brother Max he's a member of the Franciscan Brothers of Peace, a great pro-lifer, but also a champion mountain biker, a canoer, and we had a chance to go skiing this winter, and this guy can crank some pretty high-speed turns, do some shoots. So anyway, it's my honor to introduce Brother Max.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here with you all in Delano. And I'd like to share with you, to illustrate how you can continue as young people, as young adults, to build a culture of life here locally and in the Twin Cities and in the Starch Diocese. If you would each take a rosary, there's some extras, and pass it around. And these are special pro-life rosaries. They've been developed by a nurse after she was spending time during Lent praying every day in front of the Eucharist for a holy hour. And it just came to her to create this special prayer focusing on pro-life intentions. Many of you are probably already exposed to the pro-life movement. Maybe you volunteer at the local St. Michael's Cornerstone, St. Michael Pregnancy Help Center. And maybe you've taken the opportunity to go with your parish pro-life group to one of the obituaries in the Twin Cities and pray with the rosary or join the Good Father. And just being present there saves lives, but also your prayers remotely from your parish and in your high school saves lives. Now, here's two stories that kind of illustrate how one man and one woman made themselves an instrument in God's hands to save a life. And the first story is about one of our brothers. He was going down to Planned Parenthood just to pray. He didn't really want his sidewalk counsel. So he was standing there. He's our first African-American brother. He's huge. He's built like a linebacker, and his heart is just as big. And he's from Chicago, so he was praying out there, and approaching from the side is an African-American couple. And, he was just intending to pray, but the Spirit kind of spurred him to do something, to try to intervene. And so, mind you, he never officially sidewalk counseled before, but he thought of Mother Teresa, and how Mother Teresa would, take people by the arm and guide them away from the abortion clinic to one of her maternity homes. And what Brother Benedict Gerard did was, he said, are you here for, how can I help you? And are you here for an abortion? They said, yes, we are. Well, you don't have to have an abortion today. Give your child to me, I'll raise them, And so they went in and, to cancel their appointment, and they came out and prayed with him. And in a few days they had an ultrasound, and they said they had Brother Benedict's number, and they said, we were wondering, will you still stand on your offer? Yeah, I'm still good on my offer. And they said, well, the ultrasound showed her pregnant with twins. And Brother Benedict hadn't run this by our superior in our community, but Brother Paul and Brother Michael, our founders, did found Pro-Life Action Ministries, and so Brother Benedict said, well, what is it? So he said, yes, will you adopt twins? And he said, yeah, we'll do it. And about 5 months into her pregnancy, the Brother Benedict informed Brother Paul about this. And, at Planned Parenthood, she was maybe about 3 months. So Brother Benedict said, yes, we'll take care of your kids. And once the grandma found out that her daughter had twins, her heart really was moved, and she said, why don't you stay with us? So it's really ideal. But Brother Benedict has been there, bringing food to the family, and cribs and diapers and everything. And the boys just turned 1 years old, and he went to join them for the celebration, and even brought his own money to give them a pass to Chuck E. Cheese's. And when he walked in the door, mind you, Brother Benedict's maybe, other than their uncle, the mom's brother, Brother Benedict has been kind of one of the more consistent male role models for these young children. And he walks in the door and they say, Daddy! And he says, well, I wouldn't go that far. And he's hoping that in a few months, or sometime soon, that the mom will choose to baptize her little kids, and that he can be the godfather. So, and one story on the part of a woman who was down there. She's new to sidewalk counseling. She's maybe a junior in college, but she's majoring in art, and she wanted to work full-time in the pro-life movement. So she works as a sidewalk counselor with Pro-Life Action Ministries. And we were down there today. It was the third day of consecutive rain, and Evelyn came about 8:40, and there were a few clients in there in Planned Parenthood, but then a couple arrived, and you don't know, are they boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or some other relation. And so Evie gave them the literature and said, we have help for you. We could take you to the Women's Options University Life Care Center. And they came out, and they said, they told Evelyn, actually the man said, she's my sister, and because of your help, I don't want my sister to have an abortion. And so the woman was rescued from becoming a victim that day. And Evelyn had just experienced a baby save about a week earlier, but she forgot to get the woman's phone number, so she's not sure, is the woman really solid in her decision for life. But this one, Evelyn got the brother and sister's phone number, and she was just jumping for joy because, God saved another baby. So my point is that in your school, you can be the one that saves a life. People will know who you volunteer for, and they'll know what your stand is on issues that pertain to the human life and dignity. And so be ready to be the person who says, we're here for you. There's support available, and or it might be, in your extended family, a cousin, a brother, like this situation today. So let God use you, and just begin by praying. There's a really good YouTube video on spiritual adoption. Even if you live, 40 miles from an abortion mill, you can adopt a baby spiritually. And go look on YouTube and try to say that prayer every day through the intercession of the Holy Family. To 9 months, you might never meet this child, but there will be someone alive today or in the future because of your prayers. So, thanks.
Thanks so much, Brother Max. You can stay up here for a moment. At this point, well, we're going to pray the rosary, pray a decade of the rosary, and kind of like we did on the retreats for those who've been on confirmation, she used to take 10 volunteers for each of the